I'm touched by the work they are doing, especially Ms. Geetali Pawar, and the vision behind it and also the purpose behind it. And sometimes I find it very contradictory that we today times are advancing, we are moving forward, we have technology, we have information, we have media, but still I see that our society, as far as health concerns are, the topics of health concerns are still not being taken very seriously by the whole society. And what we have observed, not just that because I'm a gynecologist I'm saying this, but women still, in spite of being the most important individual of the society and the family as a whole, their health is still being neglected to a very great extent. And I have tried to simplify, though once we talk about surgeries, once we talk about complex problems, it becomes too much of an information and we miss the... Very good. I think we are set. That's quite good. So I strongly believe that if we are looking for real wealth, health is a real wealth. But if we see that if a woman is healthy in the family, in the society, then we are definitely heading towards a wealthy world, not just in terms of prosperity, education and affluence, but also in terms of health. Because if you see worldwide, the places where the happiness quotient is very high are the countries where women have not just equal rights, but also they are taken care by the government, by the family, by the peers, by the friends as individuals, in which their health is also of paramount importance. For a simple thing, if we see that in a family, a woman has to play 5 or 10 or different roles, and she has to put her priorities on the back seat and think about children, husband, family, in-laws, parents, everybody. So I think that's very, very sad, and I think we have to move ahead with that. And the idea behind this lecture is I wanted to concise it in a way that it becomes quite simple and more to the point that what are we really addressing today. There are a lot of myths about women's health issues. We take a lot of things for granted and as normal. And we feel that if this is a problem, it's quite normal. And it's being discussed with women within themselves, with their friends, with their sisters. आणि मला पण असं होत होतं ते होऊन जाईल. That is the commonest phrase which comes up, and they delay visiting. So the bottom line of this interaction is that I want to make impress upon the fact की एक रूटीन रेग्युलर चेकअप जो असतो, नॉट जस्ट अ रूटीन चेकअप, आपण ते कोलेस्ट्रॉल आणि हार्ट डिझीजचं भलतं त्रास घेतलेला आहे, पण women as a woman, as the feminist part of this soul or this body, which is not taken care at all. And we see today, as in my practice, I see many illnesses at a very late stage, even in a metropolitan city like Bombay, which is a very, very astonishing fact to me, and I am still failing to understand why is it so. So my idea is to explore the future of health in women and at the same time explore some myths. There are a lot of myths which have been propagating in the society right from, and there are multiple reasons for it. Illiteracy is a reason, traditions are the reason, ill-based facts which are not scientifically true, and many, many more. The women health concerns are quite complex. They are hidden. Any issue with the woman is, the first thing is how to discuss, whom to discuss with, and that is a problem. And if we are moving towards an open society, we have to exercise this right to discuss the health issue, whether it's a headache or whether it's any other menstrual complaint or any other thing, whether it's a minor issue, one has to be really open to discuss, and to discuss with whom? With the right person. Because they are less discussed and there are many stigma associated with it. A lot of times I come across girls facing some problems, but their mothers, parents anxious that she will not get married. What is this problem? How is this going to be handled? Is she going to need a surgery? If she's going to need a surgery, then it's going to impact her married life. So we are not treating the patient or a woman, we are actually trying to solve some other problem which is unrelated. So we are actually shifting the priority entirely to a different paradigm. Tolerance, that is the essence of Indian woman. And I think tolerance is a good thing, but it should not be taken too far, to the point that it is finally going to affect the whole. If somebody is ill, a child is ill, it may not disturb the entire family to that extent. But if the woman is ill for whatsoever reason, it is going to disturb the whole family. In the US, I am surprised that even in a country like US, they actually assess statistically there are 600,000 hysterectomies. I'm just talking about a uterus removal, though that's not the main talk or our issue today. But 600,000 hysterectomies done in US, and they say it's a $1.2 billion loss annually to the US economy, because 42% of the women work in the US. So you can imagine it's such a big problem. Limited awareness in spite of changing times. That's the contradiction we face today, even in a city like Bombay. And the commonest problem is women discuss, because it's very stigmatic to discuss with everybody or anybody. So they tend to discuss with their friends or whom they are comfortable with, their mothers, their sisters. And most of the times it is blunted. The information is incomplete, and its little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Just a brief, I have trained myself not just in gynecology, but when I did my gynecology training, I realized that delivery is not the only thing in the world of gynecology. And today, what is happening, what I saw during my training was the process as natural as delivery was made to look as pathological, and more cesareans, and that is why it changed the perspective of women today, that whenever we go to the hospital, cesarean nahi karaycha hai aplyala. And we were missing the point. There were unnecessary cesareans happening, and a normal childbirth became a problem, which is a natural phenomenon. So I decided I will leave this field to the obstetricians, and I will not go in that zone. And I will try to pursue my interests in actual pathology which are bothering the women in this country. So I trained myself extensively in various surgeries, in cancer, in fertility issues, in urogynecology, and I will discuss them in brief. They are quite complex, but I have tried to simplify as much as I can. And now, as you must be knowing, that even robotic surgeries have come into play. Many methods of diagnosis have come into play, where you just have to visit the clinic without, and 15 minutes you get your tests done and it's done. So now the commonest issues. Let us now divide the women into three phases of life. One is adolescence, very difficult phase. Childhood, I will not consider a woman. But once once a girl is going into adolescence, the real problem or the real challenges begin. Not just for the mother, but for the whole family, and it's more stigmatic to discuss. Then the reproductive age, when she gets married and she's a wife, a woman, and mother and everything. And then the age where she starts going into a phase of menopause. Now, most of the times it is taken as sarcastic, or it is addressed in a very satirical way. And the basis of the hormones in a woman are very complex, and they need to be understood not just from the scientific perspective, but also from the education perspective in our curriculum. And the dire need today is to put all these things in the curriculum of education right from the childhood. The commonest issues faced by many women in the society right from across the age groups is bleeding problems. They may be irregular, they may be heavy, they may be excessive, sometimes they may be scanty, and sometimes they may be disturbed, very frequent, and sometimes they may be so painful. But every time when they do it, sometimes they end up taking tablets from the family doctor, or they discuss with their peers and just आणि थोड्या दिवसांनी ते ठीक होईल, आता नवीन आहे, लवकर आहे, होणार. That's the kind of, and believe me, there are certain, we need not overkill that every time there is going to be some problem, but there are tests which can make sure that nothing is majorly wrong, and we should take each of these complaints quite seriously. Now the lifestyles of children are changing. They are more on the net. less on individual talk with the parents. They are on the laptops, they are on the iPads, they are not sleeping, their sleeping cycles are getting disturbed, they are watching TV till the 2 o'clock in the night, getting up at 11 o'clock in the morning. They are stressed, mothers are stressed that udya shala hai, udya pariksha hai, laukar zopi जा. And this has a basis because everyone's body has a diurnal circadian rhythm, what we call in science, of hormones which are secreted only at a particular time. Every organ has a time where thyroid hormones, pineal body, or the sexual hormones are secreted at a particular time. And once the child, a girl, especially the adolescence, the most difficult part of the age of a woman, if it's not properly made, if they are not made aware about these things, their cycles are going to get disturbed. And now we are seeing these problems very, very commonly. Almost 30 to 40% of girls are having these sorts of problems of various grades. Some may have severe, some may have very mild, but then they are going into that circle. And if they have a genetic predisposability, like madam said, that some diseases have genetic predisposition. So if somebody has a genetic predisposition, they are prone to have complex problems. Once they have these problems which are neglected for a longer time, they face reproductive problems. And then they get married late. So now we are actually subjecting ourselves to a very erratic westernization. So we have taken the negatives from our traditions and the negatives from the West. Wind blowing from the West has only brought negatives. They are now accepting pranayamas and yogasans. We are going away from that. And there are a lot of traditional basis to, a lot of scientific basis to our traditions which have been poorly elaborated and passed on through generations. Our ancestors have made many things based on science and named it into a bracket of tradition, but there are a lot of facts and science hidden in that. Because we missed that link, we don't know, and now we don't want to follow tradition because it's old-fashioned. So now we are going to face the music. We are going to pay a price if we don't open our eyes soon. So they have difficulty in conceiving, then the social pressure increases. Sometimes they have unwanted pregnancies. It's surprising that in a country like India and also a metropolitan city like Bombay, we have a very high rate of unwanted pregnancies, even in an educated class, which is a very big health hazard to a woman because she has to bear the pregnancy. If she doesn't want a pregnancy, she has to undergo a termination, which is a health risk. So what we have done is we are playing with her body. We are actually playing with her hormones, and she's being subjected to some medical form of treatment or a surgical procedure for an unwanted pregnancy. And on the other side, we have patients or couples who are finding it hard to conceive. So it's a paradox in this country that there are couples who have unwanted pregnancy, who don't plan, and on the other side, there are people who can't conceive, they desperately want to have a child. Then there are, because of these problems, they get into pelvic infections, and that increases the possibility of something known as ectopic pregnancy, where the pregnancy does not lodge itself in the uterus but somewhere else. And then it can be a health hazard. It can rupture, it can be life-threatening, patient can collapse anywhere, and it can be missed because the only symptom in a woman which is common is either too much bleeding or no bleeding. That's the only symptom, and sometimes it may not give you time. And pregnancy losses. Some patients, some women conceive, but they tend to lose the pregnancies for some or the other reason. And unless and until they lose 3 or 4, it's difficult to take an advice, and they may think it may just have happened, and they try, and that causes not just a loss of time for that couple, but also missing some pathology which is actually causing this. Then there are certain problems which are more towards the advanced age in women, which we now term as pelvic health, women's pelvic health, and these are urogynecological problems. Unfortunately, in India, there is a urologist and there is a gynecologist. So the urologist is not interested in anything other than stones and prostates, and the gynecologist is not really interested in anything else than the uterus. or deliveries or removing the uterus. So that's very surprising. And there is a world beyond that. Many women, when they are going into a perimenopausal phase, where they're approaching menopause, that's a very trying time for a woman. And at that time, they face complex effects of these hormonal interplays on not just the uterus or ovaries, but bones, skin, mind, muscles, urinary bladder, kidneys, everywhere, digestion. All of these things are altogether interrelated to one or two hormones, the estrogen and the progesterone, and it is very important to understand how these hormones are going to be fluctuating, and it's very important to educate every woman in this world to know their body that well. There will be some problems in urinary problems. They can have too much of urge. Having too much of urge, they can't hold the urine. By the time they reach, they have anxiety. They have to rush here. डबा पण करायचा आहे, सकाळी जेवण पण बनवायचं आहे, ऑफिसला पण जायचं आहे, संध्याकाळी ट्रेन पण मिसवायला नको. All these things pressurize her too much, so it increases these problems. And then there are problems which they can have leak of urine on coughing or sneezing, which they take it as normal change of life, but it's not so. It's something which is inflicted over a period of time, and there is a cure for each and everything. And the last thing which we are really aware, and of course it's quite pertinent to this movement and the foundation also a little more, cancers in women. Even today, we actually see cancers, only 5% of women's cancers as a whole, or whether you take breast, uterus, cervix, ovaries and other organs, only 5% are detected in a very controllable age. We have screening methods in place in our system for almost all cancers. Only one cancer, which is the cancer of the ovary, can be very, very treacherous. It can cheat anybody, and there is still no test which can detect or predict, or there is no screening, one single screening test for an ovarian cancer. But all the other cancers are very well preventable. But what we have to do for it is ensure that we undergo, every woman from the age group of maybe 18 to 35, 40, 50, 60 has to undergo a few screening tests for all these cancers. I think I would be very happy if every single woman who is present here and every woman she knows in her life, if she takes this message that from today we pledge ourselves that we will take an opinion of a doctor and screen ourselves for all these cancers regularly at regular durations, we are going to win the battle against this cancer, which is actually devastating our lives in. And the science is progressing, but cancer is always 5 steps ahead of the mankind. We are still chasing cancer. We cannot beat cancer so easily because it's just moving ahead. So, like if we say for breast, we have simple tests like breast mammography, which is a very non-invasive test. Self-examination of breasts. We should have more and more camps to train women to have their own self-examination. Then if there is something suspicious, go in, have a medical opinion, get the mammography or the sonography done. These are very, very mildly invasive tests that you get reports within 1 day, and if you do it as a regular basis, there is no way that you can miss something as deadly as a breast cancer. Second thing, the cervix. Now we are aware we have advertisements on TV. When there is an advertisement on the TV, we start talking about it. There is a vaccine for which can prevent cervix cancer. Suddenly everybody starts talking about it. And I have patients who are 45 years of age in coming to my clinic and they say, Doctor, माझी मुलगी 18 वर्ष तिला हे वॅक्सिन देऊ का? मी त्यांना विचारतो, तुम्ही तुमचा पॅप स्मिअर केला का? तर ते म्हणतात नाही. मग तुम्ही स्वतःचा पॅप स्मिअर 10 वर्षापासून केला का? नाही केला. पण तुम्हाला मुलीची चिंता. That is the Indian woman. So I think first she has to think, if I am all right, my daughter is anyways going to be all right. So she has to know that there is a pap smear, and she has to ensure that she does that pap smear every 6 months in whichever clinic she wants. Fallopian tubes and external private parts, there can be different growths or tumors, cysts, fibroids, benign or malignant. So there can be various growths. We can pick those growths because patient will feel the symptom. But if there is anything without the growth, then it will be a problem. And that is why we should encourage every woman in our society to undergo a regular screening. When we have bleeding problems, there can be multiple, it's a Pandora's box. If a girl is 20 and she has bleeding problems, there can be multiple solutions. Then if a girl is in reproductive age group, she is married, at that time it has multiple options. So we need to diagnose, we need to seek a proper consultant's advice who is a specialist in this field, and try to get down to a cause and treat it that way. And most of these things, if you come to the consultant at a very early stage, are very easily treatable by modification of lifestyle, habit changing, assessing what the girl's lifestyle is like, and controllable at the right age. If a woman is exposed to irregular or such patterns largely for 10 years, 15 years, they have a higher risk of converting it into a cancer. So any abnormal change in the body persisting for a long time is a very great stimulus for having cancer of any organ. Now, if a woman who has already achieved a menopause may just have a spotting or a bleeding after 5 years of menopause, and it's a small symptom, and many times I see patients neglecting it, आणि ते कोणाबरोबर बोलतात आणि मला पण एकदा असं झालं होतं पण काही नव्हतं, काय असं काय नाही, परत झालं तर आपण डॉक्टरकडे जाऊया. And that is a very, very risky step. If you have even one small red spot after a menopause, it has to be taken seriously, and you have to seek medical advice and get yourself examined, because endometrial cancer is now becoming a commoner cancer. It is more common in patients who are obese, who have diabetes or hypertension, or who have less children, or who have not been delivered any time. So these are multiple, and if they are exposed to lifestyle which are highly stressful, they have a higher incidence of, and if somebody in the family has had a history, then all the more so. So it's very important to pick up these symptoms. If there are irregular, scanty or erratic periods, that is also a sign of some hormonal imbalance or some organic problem with the uterus. Sometimes a simple childhood infection in a girl, she was exposed to somebody when she's in the school, and there was a boy or a girl in her class who had a tuberculosis, and she was exposed to that tuberculosis. She will never have symptoms. But after 10 years, suddenly we find that her periods stopped. And then she comes to the doctor, and then when we ask, "Madhe kami zale hote, thode thode," but that was regular, but that was a sign actually. And in India, in a country where we have tuberculosis, is quite a common disease. It can go and affect the uterus without even with the notice of that person or individual. And sometimes we trace the history back to 10 years. So any small symptom, do not neglect. Take a proper medical opinion, because then the onus rests on the specialist who you consult. If the specialist is good enough to suspect things, then you are in the right hands. Another important symptom is painful menstruation. Now I will elaborate on a disease which is now becoming which was the disease of West. I trained myself for treating this disease in 2005, and in that place in Italy where I worked with Professor Luca Minelli, who was a gynecologist but used to do 7-8 operations of that particular disease only in that whole week. He had actually restricted his practice to do that, and he told me at that time, "You are from India," and I told him that in my MD whole 6 years of my tenure in JJ Hospital, I never saw this case. We have huge number of patients, but we never saw such complicated. And he told me that when you talk to me after 10 years, and I just emailed him 15 days back that I am now seeing almost 10 to 15 cases of this endometriosis every month, which is a very high number, which in 2005 I used to do 1 in 3 months or 4 months. So I am actually seeing what he meant. I actually now understand what he really meant. So painful menstruation should not be taken lightly in any age group. Unless and until ruled out by any other tests, if everything is normal, it's fine. But it should never be neglected. Now there are modern treatments available. We have earlier days, even not just earlier, when I finished my MD, when we came out, we thought delivery, cesarean section and hysterectomy, these are the 2-3 main areas, and this one has to be expert in. But when I left obstetrics and when I entered this world, I realized that there are so many options available. Technology has gone so far that there are options to treat each and everything in a very targeted way and relieve the problem, not just, do something. So first we detect the cause. There can be small growths, polyps which can be removed, sent for biopsy. If they're normal, then they your problem is solved. So there is no need for removing the uterus for every bleeding problem, and there is no need to remove the ovaries for the fear of cancer. So the treatment ranges from A to Z, and we have all the options. When couples who cannot conceive, there can be combination of problems, and this is one of the biggest problem. And it's a paradox that in a country where population is a major problem, still now there are more than 20 million, it's more than 2 to 3 crores of couples who are still finding it difficult to conceive. And in the last 7 years, even in the city like Bombay, almost 100 laboratories of test tube baby, you must have heard, I'm sure, have cropped up. The reason behind it is that due to multiple factors like society change, lifestyle change, people migrating, women getting educated, trying to find jobs, having very hectic jobs, then planning to defer their childbearing age because they want to make get somewhere with the career, they postpone their childbirth and everything, and then both of them face problem in conceiving when they really want to. And that is why it is becoming a major health concern these days in the society. Then there are patients who have early or recurrent abortions. They conceive, but they are not able to carry forward the pregnancies. So that is also treatable. There are multiple methods which we can use to find out what is the reason and help them conceive and take the pregnancy to the full term. Then ectopic pregnancy is a very lethal. In a young patient, she can collapse anywhere, and this is to be detected and treated well in time with minimal invasive surgery. And it's better that any irregularity in a patient who is not practicing contraception, if she misses a period for 5 days and then has bleeding, then it's better to immediately seek advice from the doctor. Because if you say that, okay, it may sometimes happen, then you're taking a risk. Even today, by the miracle of this science, even couples who have not been able to have children, even at the age of 50, they can still dream of having children, and that's another world. So science really has no limitations. Now, urogynecological problems totally neglected in today's society, but urogynecological health is very important, especially in menopausal women, because there are a lot of chemical changes in their body which actually give them a lot of problems like itching and unbearable symptoms and urinary problems, urinary leakage, urgency, poor control, and this limits their activity in the society. Whenever they have to go somewhere, they have to think that tikde arrangement asail ka. Another, recent elections, there was a big issue about restrooms being there for women in the schools, right from schools and public places. So we still are struggling with the basics, and if a woman has this kind of a problem, we will classically see this woman trying to avoid social gatherings or not wanting to go somewhere, and the cause is somewhere else. Everybody might think, and people may not understand. In her own family, nobody would understand. They would say, why she's not going every time she tries to avoid. But the real cause is somewhere else, which she's really scared to discuss. So, simple problems, they can be treated with various mechanisms. And urinary leakage, in India, more than 10 million women suffer with this problem, which is very easily curable, but they don't seek medical advice. And finally, the most important emphasis which I want to give again and again, that, as I said, except ovary, all the other cancers can be detected or picked up well in time and cured completely. And with the word completely, I mean it. It can be cured completely, because if we utter the word cancer, it kills you before it actually kills you. So that is why it is important to pledge ourselves with ourselves that we should encourage every woman in the society to actually go and have a regular screening checkup. The only cancer which is very hidden, which may not give symptoms for years together and still grow inside, is the ovary. And the best tests which are available today are some tumor markers or some. If ultrasound says that there is a cyst in the ovary and in a particular age group it's not dissolving within 3 months with medical treatment, then it's better to check it, send it for examination and confirm the diagnosis. So, breast, cervix, uterus, ovary and fallopian tubes and the external genitalia, all these abnormal pathologies can be detected with proper checkups and regular checkups. Now there are many myths. You must have commonly heard that there are fibroids patients have heavy bleeding, they can be treated. Most of the times they end up with uterus removal. So now it is not so. Fibroids, if they're excessive, they can be removed. There are multiple methods. Now we can remove them with laparoscopy, which are small incisions through which we can remove as big fibroids as we can. There are certain fibroids which are inside the body of the uterus where we don't have to make any scar on the abdomen, but they can be very well removed with a resectoscope from inside. So all these things are possible, and the woman can go home in one day. However major the surgery will be, they can go home in one day. So the impact on overall family is not so much. And in the olden days, if a woman had to undergo surgery, every time there is a classical explanation की आता माझ्या मुलीची 10वीची परीक्षा आहे, मग डॉक्टर मग मार्च जाऊ देत, मग आपण एप्रिलमध्ये मग त्यांचे वेकेशन असणार, मग तेवढाच वर्ष मिळतो, मग आपण जूनमध्ये करूया, शाळा सुरू होणार त्याच्या जस्ट अगोदर करूया. म्हणजे they will try to push their problems to that extent. And in that situation, every time it's not possible for a consultant to implant a fear in your mind की तुम्ही उशीर केला तर त्याच्यात काही कॅन्सर होऊ शकतो किंवा काही होऊ शकतं, because it's quite not justified. So it's a common dilemma also for the consultant how to deal with this. So it is important and high time that women take health as a priority issue, because if they are healthy and if that will make them stress free, and that will improve the productivity of their life, and they can plan, and there will be much under control of their life. So these are a couple of achievements which I had. There was a lady who was 8 months pregnant, admitted in Wadia Hospital, and she had an ovarian tumor. And at that time she was actually heading for delivery, but she had a twist in that tumor. And that's the first time we did it laparoscopically. We just put 2 holes and removed that tumor. She continued her pregnancy. That tumor came out to be benign, and she delivered normally after 1.5 months without any problem. So there was no need to do a very big operation, and a risk of terminating the pregnancy was not there. And even internationally, they do not advise to do laparoscopy beyond 5 months of pregnancy, but this was a feat which we have published in our international. And now it's not necessary that uterus has to go out. If you are ready to undergo a regular checkup, whatever problem is there in the uterus can be treated surgically, minimally invasively, and preserving the uterus. Because many a times women feel if the uterus is removed, then they will lose their femininity, or there will be other problems. It will disturb a lot of things and cause too many hormonal problems. But that's not true. But at the same time, it should be removed only when it is really necessary. So the onus of that really rests on the consultant who is advising you, but the responsibility of seeking medical advice is entirely yours. So we have removed more than 24 or 30 fibroids in a woman who was actually told that you cannot conceive and you will never be able to, you have to remove the uterus for this whole thing, and she was postponing the surgery for that for 3-4 years till she came to me, and we said we can do it. And now she, after 2 years of surgery, she conceived, she delivered at 7.5 months. The baby was premature, but baby, after being in the neonatal intensive care unit for 2 months or so, baby went home. So it was a great thing. Then there was this girl who did not have, who had a congenital anomaly, no uterus and no lower genital tract. And then we did a complex surgery for that. We developed everything, we did a graft. Now she is almost, this was done in 2009 or so. It's almost, no, 2010 or 11, where it's almost 3 to 4 years. Now she has finished her forensic science after that, and she's doing very well. And now, even problems like cancer in women can be treated through laparoscopy. And it is still a matter of surprise to me that even in our institutes, the most premium institute in Tata, the discipline of laparoscopy is lagging behind by almost 20 years. They are employing newer technologies, but when it comes to minimal invasive surgery, they still feel opening the whole body to remove cancer is the gold standard, and they have not still employed this minimal invasive method to the very great extent, and that's a surprise to me. But now, believe me, with minimal invasive surgery, if somebody has a uterine cancer, if we detect well in time and we do laparoscopic surgery, it's as good as a normal hysterectomy, and patient goes home in 2 days. and she's back to her normal routine. If she requires future chemotherapy and everything, she tolerates it better because the abdomen is not scarred. Her healing time is very less. Her blood loss was very, very minimal. It's almost 95% less than what in open surgery. And we don't have to wait for long for her wounds to become normal to give chemotherapy. So it reduces the time between the surgery and the chemotherapy, and the patient can fight cancer back in a very effective way and increase the 5 to 10 years survival rates by more than 90%. This was another case where we removed almost 7.8 kg, which has now entered Limca Book of Records, where we did, the woman looked 9 months pregnant. She was refused surgery at most of the places, and I removed the whole thing, and there were more than 100 fibroids, and it was all done through laparoscopy. They could not believe it, that it could be done. So this is the way we do it. There are small holes in the abdomen. We put our instruments. The center one, which is a bigger one, is our camera, which is fitted to it. And these are all small 5mm holes. So the patient can very well go home the next day. And you see there's hardly any blood loss. That's how we normally operate on the screen. There can be a small growth inside the uterus which may cause a bleeding problem. So we just put in a scope inside, cut it off, and patient can actually walk home. This is an office procedure, and it's surprising that we are still not able to do it in a city like Bombay. Because if a woman comes and we tell them there is a 2 centimeter polyp, we will do it right now. The same thing she will have to say, I'll have to consult, I will have to ask my parents or my husband or my sister, medication. It is a 5 minutes job, and she can go back to her. So lot of, which is known as hysteroscopy. Hystero means uterus and scopy means looking into the uterus. So it's an incision-less surgery. It can be done in mild sedation. After 2 hours, the patient can just go home. And there are a lot of things in this. This is just an example. There are a lot of problems in the uterus which can be treated by hysteroscopy. Now there are big fibroids which can be removed without any scars also. This is what actually the fibroid is. It's an overgrowth of the muscle. This is a cut section of the uterus, and you can see, and the fibroid can be in different locations. And all these fibroids can give different symptoms. Sometimes they may give mild pain. Sometimes they may give bulkiness, sometimes they may give a feeling of lump, and sometimes they may give heavy bleeding. So depending upon those symptoms, we can predict where the fibroid is, and now we have MRIs and ultrasound which can predict. We have 3D ultrasounds today which can very well show where exactly the fibroids are located, and the surgeon can plan the treatment so minimally invasively that it reduces the number of cuts, it reduces the number of stitches inside, it reduces the hospital stay, reduces the blood loss. So the recovery is also very fast. One single thing, low hemoglobin is the commonest health problem in India. Low hemoglobin, which causes low vitamins, lower capacity to bear stress because you are low on lower oxygenation to the tissues, so you tend to become older faster. So it's the best antioxidant. You start taking vitamins, but basically the problem is that you're not maintaining your health to normal. Then you have to take vitamins. Why do you need that? So this is how they look, big fibroids inside. Actually the top portion is the normal uterus. And you can see this is a very big 12 to 14 centimeters, almost like a small melon size fibroid, but this can be removed with laparoscopy and patient can walk home not just the next day, sometimes even in the evening. And she can get back to work in 5 days. So thank you very much. I have a lot more other things to share, but bottom line is that our emphasis is on getting right medical advice, not discussing internally with peers when there is not too much of information, and also not become Dr. Google, because Dr. Google is the biggest culprit these days. So if there are any queries, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Hello? Yeah, excuse me?
Yeah.
When you say ovarian cancer cannot be detected easily,
Yeah.
So how do we?
Now, see, the basic screening, the commonest method of screening for all women is for abdominal problem is a abdominal and pelvic ultrasound. So when every 6 months you get a normal pelvic ultrasound. Now in that ultrasound, if there is, suppose they say that there is a small 2 centimeter cyst coming up or a growth coming up in the ovary, which may be 99% normal, but that's how we pick up even the smallest things. And then we can subject you to more specific tests. So a simplest test is, because a 2 centimeter growth in the ovary will not give you any symptom. So the message which I want to pass is that there is no need to go to the doctor only when you have a problem. There are certain things which you have to do as a duty, like we brush our teeth every day. We have to do certain things periodically, either 3 months or 6 months. If it comes to pap smear, the ideal routine is after the age of 30, it should be every year. And after the age of 35, every 6 months. And after the age of 40, every 3 months. Now, similarly for an ultrasound, I will broadly define you. Previously in books we read that breast cancer was more common in this age group. Uterine cancer was common in the age group of 60 to 70. Cervical cancer was common between age for 50 to 60. Ovarian cancer is common, but now we see cancer across. Of course, the incidence may be less in the earlier age and all those sorts of things, but that suggests that we are exposed to chemicals in the environment. Our food may not be entirely safe, our water may not be entirely safe, our milk may not be entirely safe, it may be processed and it may be already chemicalized. So the idea is, these are the basic tests, like a routine X-ray, a routine ultrasound of the whole abdomen, and routine blood tests. Now, if there is any abnormality in any of these tests, which point, then the doctor will suggest you that you need to go for these tests again. So that's how we can pick.
The basic symptoms, if there is the problem in ovary, because one of my friend, she went undergo the ovarian, she had diagnosed with ovarian cyst.
I see.
Okay. She got operated. Cyst.
See, normally it can be somewhere from mild pain. Now the problem is that the abdomen has so many organs that if there is pain, you will go to the doctor. But what happens initially is that if you have a same pain, which may not be severe, unfortunately ovarian pain is never severe, unless and until, like the case I showed you, which was a pregnant lady, it got twisted. It was a tumor, but there was a uterus which was carrying a baby. There was no place for the ovary to move, and then it got twisted and it could not untwist again. And everybody thought that she is going into labor. And that's the time when we did the ultrasound and we found that there is a tumor which has now no blood flow because the whole blood supplying artery was twisted. And that is how we realized that it's not a pregnancy related pain or a delivery pain. And then we had to do. So pain may be one of the symptoms, fullness of the abdomen may be one of the symptoms, but that's so general of a symptom. And unfortunately the symptoms such as loss of appetite or poor bowel motion or movement or altered bowel motions, that you're not passing stools well regularly and other stuff, they come very late. So if those symptoms are coming too late, then it's quite late because it is probably spread. So the best way is not to have any symptom and have a proper ultrasound every 6 months. That's the only way to predict or detect earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, I have one question and one explanation required. In the beginning of your session, you said technology is advanced, but cancer is 5 steps ahead. Can you elaborate this?
Yeah.
And second thing, whenever we are discussing, we say that in the Western world, this is what is observed. But do we have the similar data for the eastern part of our neighbors, where our lifestyle or living is more similar to the eastern part of our world? So do you have a data for the eastern part, and if it is so, what does it indicate?
Now I'll answer that in 2 parts. Definitely cancer is ahead. The reason for that is that if recently every 2 years when I go abroad to update myself in the newer technologies for especially for treatment of cancer, I find that there is a new innovation and there is a new test which has come up, but they are still not definitive about that. So they change, and every 2 years the theory of treating a particular cancer changes, and sometimes they find that what they were doing 4 years back was entirely wrong. And they come to it, when last year I went, like say for example the simple case of laparoscopy. When laparoscopy came, 5 years, 6 years, in 1996 they started doing treating cancers, especially in women I am talking about. Of course they are doing cancer stomach and other stuff. But when they started doing it at the leading centers in US and Europe, it was met with broad criticism all over the world. And India is still not accepting it. So when I got myself trained there and I saw what they were doing, initially the senior generation doctors who were the most experienced, who resisted it, but they were very critical about it and still employed it, because they had a system in place where they could subject patients to research and take the patient's active participation as control, that we are going to try and treat your cancer with laparoscopic, though we are not sure that it's going to really be good for you or not, which is not the case in India. Because in India, once it is said, if you talk to somebody in Tata and tell that laparoscopy, we are going to treat some cancer laparoscopically, they will blast you. ते तुम्हाला सांगणार की तुम्ही वेडे झालेले आहेत, कोणी तुम्हाला सांगितलं? That is the case. Of course, it should not be done by everybody and it should not be done in every case. That's a different issue. So the problem with our system is we lack the system. Our system is going nowhere as far as medical science is concerned and the research. तुम्ही डेटाचं म्हणालात, we are having 6 to 8 times more surgical or clinical work than US and Europe together. When I tell them, when I go there, and this time when I went for robotics, when I met the professor and when he saw me operating and he said, how many surgeries do you do in a month? And when I told him I do around 90 surgeries, it's almost 2 to 4 surgeries a day. He said, we do 7 in a week. So by now, how much you have done? I have done only 560 cancer in a career of 15 years when he's a professor. As a professor, 15 years as a professor. So that is the thing, but they're so methodical and systematic. So in India, we have a lot of resources and a lot of things can be done. We can actually conduct, and in fact, Indian society can become a mass study, because we see myriad of presentations, and if we only generate the facilities for maintaining the data that this patient came with this problem and was treated with this, the world research is going to be benefited. So, and if you see Japan, they are the most advanced. They are working on a different level, even if you compare them with the US. And their life expectancy is 85 to 90. And there the cancer survival rates are higher than all over the world. So it's, and it definitely, again, if we compare and if we shift ourselves from science and if we compare the lifestyle, Japanese, if you see, they are very hardcore to their traditions. And Western world, if you see, they are not towards the tradition. So if you see Japanese lifestyle, their tea, now we are coming to green tea. Now we are wanting to drink green tea and thinking that, it has anti-cancer properties. So it's like this. So Japan already has that. China already has that. India already had that. So now only thing is we need to understand the scientific basis of our traditions, but at the same time use information and technology to our awareness and become responsible, not just for ourselves and also people who come in touch with us on everyday basis, that the health awareness should be so high that we seek the right advice at the right time. And that is actually going to give us more data, because these, once education levels are higher, we will find the system will fall into our place.
Yeah, I would like to ask you one last question before we wind up.
Yeah.
What are the symptoms of being perimenopausal?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually, and it's a very common thing, and it's I'm sorry I missed that in this because I thought it would be too extensive, but yes. perimenopausal symptoms are very, very classical and very obvious. And to our surprise, they are taken as totally normal, which is not so. Now, right from the first changes which are there are alteration in the bleeding pattern. Now, it will depend on every woman, her genetics. Her mother may have a menopause at the age of 50. So, it's possible that her menopause may be delayed. So, there is no fixed age of menopause in every woman. The average age is around 44 in India. And in US or the Western world, it's around 48. So, in India, if around average age is around 44, women may have perimenopause to menopausal symptoms from the age of 41 to 49 to 50. And some women may have still menstruation up to 50 or 52 and then stop. Now, when it comes to the symptom, the alteration in the bleeding pattern, duration, and the regularity. These are the three things which may change. Then there may be altered heavy bleeding or scanty bleeding. So there is a disturbance in the rhythm and quantity. That is the first thing. Second thing, they may have episodes of maybe less sleep, shallow sleep, irritability, or something known as hot flushes, which is a very common symptom, which they feel that something is, they have lightning sort of things in the head, which is a lightheadedness. And that is easy irritability. So whenever they are trying to concentrate or anything which normally does not irritates them more than which they are also surprised. Then there are certain skin changes. Skin starts becoming drier. Then there are certain genital changes where the pH of the internal genitalia changes and there are high chances of genital infections because the pH which is acidic turns towards more alkaline and it is easier for the fungi, candidiasis and other organisms to thrive. And it will make the symptoms worse if the patient is diabetic, because they have high sugar environment in their body which is more favorable for different fungi and the bacteria. And if they prolong this thing for a longer time, they have ulcerations in the genitalia or they have burning, itching in the genitalia. So that is also one of the very prominent symptoms. Then bone pains. The most protective effect, estrogen is a wonder drug. Actually there is one thing next to Amrut in Hindu mythology, that is estrogen. If you see, God has designed we may say that women and men are equal, but actually women are far superior than men, and that is why they have been given the natural responsibility of many actually taking the race forward. Estrogen has protective effects on each and every organ, right from the brain and neurons. Why do we have irritability? That means there is a layer. Now neurons are made of carbohydrates and fat. Now, estrogen enhances this ability in the food to deposit that carbohydrate and fat on the neurons. When the estrogen goes down, the neurons are bared by this glycolipid layer and we become irritable. So the ladies become irritable. So anything they get more angry, they are not able to sleep, they find it difficult to calm themselves down. They have high levels of anxiety. Then this actually also manifests in terms of some psychosomatic symptoms, like they may become more insecure. Because also at the same time in their family they are passing through a different phase. They may have a son, they may have a daughter, or they may only have a daughter who is already married, so they are alone. So the feeling of insecurity with loneliness, anxiety, all this starts building, and that is also one of the symptoms of perimenopausal age. The bone pains, because estrogen enhances calcium and vitamin D deposition on the bone. Estrogen once goes down, perimenopausal symptoms start coming because of deficiency of estrogen, and the women are highly prone to fractures. Many a times it happens, a lady of 65-year-old falls and we think that she has fallen and now she has a fracture, but actually she has a fracture first and then she falls. Because the bone is become so weak that it is not able to take her weight, and normally they have a fracture normally in the hip. So it is also 1 to 2% of women between the age of 65 to 70, if not undergoing a regular bone scan, are at a very high risk of osteoporosis and weak bone angle at the hip joint. They may have fracture, and that is why in these days you must have seen the hip replacements and the knee replacements have gone higher. So bone pain, muscle activity is reduced. So what you were able to do earlier with what power, you will find that now you are not able to do, and that's considered as an aging process, but actually it's more related to menopause or perimenopausal symptom rather than aging. Then it's a very important point. If you see the incidence of heart attacks, it's more in men, less in women. Because estrogen is cardioprotective. It protects the woman against heart disease. It protects the blood vessels of a woman from deposition of all this cholesterol and calcification in the lumen of the arteries. Once the estrogen goes down, the woman is also highly prone, and if she has a erratic lifestyle, stressful lifestyle, abnormal diet, and she has a family history of heart attack in father, then she will be exposed to, or she will be at a higher risk of heart attack. So, and brain. Estrogen has a protective effect on all the brain functions, not just sleep and other things, but all the higher functions, the alertness and everything. So concentration, impaired concentration, and the higher intellectual faculties of our human, they start going down. The comprehensiveness of what you are doing and all that, that also goes down. So skin becomes drier, so the sheen of the skin goes down. You may feel itchy. That's actually a symptom of low estrogen. And these all can be treated with mild supplementation. There are a lot of herbal products, a lot of soybean extracts, which can be just supplemented in your diet, and you don't need to take a medicine, but it will just bridge that gap and not allow your estrogen levels to go down beyond a certain level. And at the same time, not cause the side effects of high estrogen. So all these things can be done.
एक्सक्यूज मी डॉक्टर, ये सिंगल और मैरिड दोनों को हो सकता है? यानी कैंसर जो है जितने टाइप्स के आपने बताए,
यस,
हाँ, वो दोनों यानी सिंगल और मैरिड दोनों लेडीज को हो सकता है?
बिल्कुल,
सिर्फ मैरिड लड़कियों को?
There is no relation directly with marriage, but if you see, as I already mentioned, in endometrial cancer, but before I say something, there is no need to get scared, because if you are actually going for regular checkups, there is no need to get scared. I will just summarize it in one way before I elaborate on this, that smoking increases the risk of lung cancer, but every smoker does not have cancer. Otherwise, we would not have had smokers around us. And every alcoholic may not have liver cancer. And at the same time, every person who had lung cancer may not be a smoker. So there is no rule. But a woman who is not breastfed has a higher risk of breast cancer. And a woman who is not conceived has a higher risk of endometrial cancer. So when I say that if there is a lady who is a little obese, who has diabetes, who is not married or may have not conceived, she has a higher risk of endometrial cancer. But at the same time, cervical cancer is more common in patients who deliver more, who have multiparity or who have multiple partners. So because cervical cancer is one of the causes is a virus, and that is why that vaccine has come, which prevents that human papilloma virus or the herpes simplex virus. So these viruses which are transmitted sexually, then these women are exposed to higher chances of cervical cancer. Similarly, ovarian cancer also is commoner in women who have not been ovulating properly or who have diseases like endometriosis or other hormonal disturbances for a very long time. And if they have a genetic predisposition, they are at a higher risk. So I hope that summarizes what you wanted to ask.
Doctor, how early can we do the test for the young girls?
The young girls, the internal genital test cannot be done. So an ultrasound is the simplest investigation, whether it is breast, whether it is uterus, whether it is ovaries, the simple ultrasound can be done.
For cancer?
Yeah, for cancer. So now let us think it in the other way. Let us not always think about cancer. My emphasis is not that we have to think about cancer every day in and day out. What we have to think is there is something like a normal checkup which is to be done. First, at the very first symptom that you have some symptom. That is the first thing.
One more thing, that vaccine which you said about the cervical, which has come.
Yeah.
At what age can you give? Because when we inquired, they said above 40 you cannot take that vaccine. It has to be given between the age of 20 to 40.
Yeah, yes, that is true. That is true. But again, as I said, and just continuing what the gentleman asked, as I said, that cancer is 5 steps ahead. This vaccine is also not a 100% cure or a guarantee that you will not have cancer, because it can prevent cancer which is caused by a virus. And only thing, if somebody has already been exposed to that virus for a very long time, then it will not work. So this vaccine, these days people are giving it. That's why I mentioned that peculiar incident, because I have many women coming to my clinic for themselves, but then before leaving the consulting they will ask me, Doctor, he je vaccine आले ते माझ्या daughterला केव्हा द्यायचं?
No, and this vaccine is given only once there has been an intersexual relation or something?
Basically, it makes, it's not necessary directly that they may be sexually active. Because it is to be taken in 3 doses, which is given on first day, then it's 0, 1 and 6, or 0, 2 and 6. So there are 3 doses which are to be given. Previously they said not to give to adolescent girls, but let them be sexually active and then give them. But now there is no such rule, because in the US there is nothing like marriage or sexually activity. So there is no way to prevent that, or there is no way to know about that. So they have decided that as soon as the girl achieves the sexual maturity, it can be given. So maybe you say around the age of 15 to 16, we can give the vaccine before she is exposed actually to any of these viruses.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yeah.
Urinary problems, what you said that we face through, what are the cures that we could go ahead with them?
Great. Now, the commonest symptoms will be burning or itching in the area and burning of urine while passing urine. That is the commonest symptom. Second is urgency of urine. That is like we are not able to control. You have the urge to pass urine, but by the time you are reaching the washroom, you are not able to hold it. That is second thing, which is known as detrusor activity, overactivity. And the third thing is sometimes you sneeze and cough and you leak urine. These are the commonest symptoms. And sometimes there is hesitancy of urine, that you want to pass urine but you are not able to pass urine, or suddenly when you relax and then you pass urine. So these are alternating symptoms of alternating hesitancy and retention. That's the symptomatology. Now it actually depends what actual problem you have, because we have to conduct some tests which will actually lead us to particular causes, and then we treat accordingly. In some cases, mild weakness in your muscle, and that can be purely treated surgically by a minimal invasive procedure, what we call as tension-free tape, obturator tape. It's a 20 minutes procedure without any scars, and it can be treated completely. So this is the way. And there is something known as cystoscopy, which we look into the bladder and find what is the problem. Sometimes you may have bleeding in urine. I recently did a surgery, which is the first surgery in India, which is known as bladder endometriosis. And as I mentioned, Dr. Minelli, he told me that you will see that after I did that 15 days back. So this patient was having bleeding through the urine during her menstruation. And she was actually panicked that she went to many urologists also, and they said there might be cancer. And when we did a cystoscopy, we found that there were blue-red nodules, and they were becoming more red during her menstruation. So that time we realized that it's an endometriosis, and we had to cut that whole part, and it's treatable. Once we remove that and close the bladder and give her the medical suppression, she's going to be fine. So these are the methods by which we can reach the diagnosis and treat the problem completely.